If you're racist, it must be really tough being anywhere in the country or on the planet right now. Seeing entire countries, companies, and maybe even your favorite celebrity stand in solidarity with a cause that you probably don't support. If you're not racist, it might puzzle you, blow your mind even. Trying to understand how some people can be so hateful and despicable to others based on little more than the color of their skin. Like, how? Well, all human behavior, the good, the bad, and the racist, has its origin in the brain. Since the mid-1990s, when Harvard psychologists created a way for people to peer inside their brains and uncover potential prejudices lurking beneath their consciousness, millions of people across the world have tried to measure their implicit racism. Now, as a grave oversimplification, the implicit association test, as it's called, measures in milliseconds how long it takes you to make positive, negative, or neutral associations with different types of people. If, for example, it takes you longer to associate women with science-related images or words, you may have implicit beliefs about a woman's role or capability in science, which of course would be based on stereotypes. Well, the longer it takes you to associate positive words with black or brown faces, the more likely your beliefs are informed by negative stereotypes of these groups, and the more likely you are to be hostile, uncomfortable, or fearful around them. Based on data from the IAT, scientists estimate that nearly 75% of white and Asian people in America, and even a third of blacks, have an implicit preference for white skin. So, are all of these people in our country racist? Well, thanks to this data, as well as data from other well-designed experiments that directly measure brain activity in race-based scenarios, we have a pretty good idea of what it means to be racist, neurologically speaking. In this brain snack, we'll see what we all have in common with a racist person's brain, and exactly what's unique about how their brains respond to their worlds. If you think you're not racist because you just don't see color, not only are you potentially strengthening negative associations that you have with other races, you just straight up lying to yourself. Yes, race is a social construct, but when it comes to it, your brain is not and will never be colorblind. Whether you're team BLM or ALM, your brain detects the race and gender of a person you're looking at in 1/20th of a second. That's 10 times faster than you become aware that you're looking at anything at all. And it's just enough time for your brain to decide if who or what you're looking at is dangerous or not. If your brain does perceive them as a threat, a deep and ancient part of your limbic system, known as the amygdala, activates. This almond-shaped cluster of neurons is there to help you quickly and automatically respond to the supposed threat, and help you remember important details about it. This is how you learn and remember to fear fire, or police sirens, or if you're racist, Black people. Indeed, the amygdala activates when a racist or implicitly biased person looks at a person of color, while it remains silent when most people look at someone the same race as them. According to research conducted by Harvard and NYU psychologists, there's a pretty strong correlation between the anti-blackness measured on the IAT and the reactivity of a person's amygdala when they look at a black face. In other words, the more racist you are, the more strongly this danger zone of your brain reacts to people that don't look like you. Now, this activation can be observed and measured with an instrument called an electroencephalogram, or EEG, which records patterns of brain activity by drawing little squiggly lines called waveforms. Well, activation in the amygdala produces a distinct pattern of electrical activity known as a P200 waveform. I'm afraid of centipedes and snakes. If you stuck me in a brain scanner and showed me either of these things, P200 waveforms would be scribbled all over my EEG. Well, this also happens when people with racial bias look at Black people. The more racist a person is, the sharper these curves. Now, shortly after P200 appears on an EEG, another waveform known as N200 shows up. This brain activity effectively inhibits or silences what's going on in the amygdala. This is your prefrontal cortex telling your limbic system, yo, chill out, calm your butt down, stop tripping all the time, it's just a Black guy, relax. The more anti-Black you score on an IAT, the smaller this N200 waveform appears, meaning the more racist you are, the less your brain inhibits the fearful and irrational part of your brain. Another region of a racist person's brain that responds differently from everybody else is a fusiform face area, or the facial recognition scanner in your brain, which quickly informs you about the identity, gender, age, and mood of the person you're looking at. This region doesn't light up when you look at other animals, or pencil sharpeners, or Gucci bags, just when you look at human faces. And this region doesn't light up as much when a racist person looks at someone from another race. Lastly, The insula is another crucially important brain region involved in explaining racist behavior, but also explaining behaviors that we all exhibit. You see, we all have a strong tendency to put things in little mental boxes in our brains, including ourselves. As a survival instinct, we're wired to create us versus them categories in our brains, and we do it for salient things like social status, nationality, and age, but even for the most arbitrary things like t-shirt color or subconscious mimicry. Yes, you're more likely to befriend someone and consider them a us simply because they display the same body language as you. Weirdo. So much of this social screening and sorting happens at a subconscious level. And the best evidence we have for this is by observing kids. Boys versus girls, blue team versus red team, sophomores versus freshmen. And before you know it, all the black kids sitting together at the cafeteria. Interestingly, people form positive associations with members of their in-group and preferentially allocate resources to them. More interestingly are the often completely unwarranted and negative associations that people naturally make with out-group members for no other reason than them being in the out-group. 6-year-old boys, for instance, hate girls for no other reason than the fact that they're girls. Celtics fans hate Lakers fans, and Trump supporters really hate liberals. Now, I talk about the chemical and neurological basis of us versus theming in this video, where I discuss oxytocin's role in bringing people closer together and driving others further apart, but you can bet your bag that this natural tendency is a major driver of the sexism, xenophobia, and racism that have plagued our country and world since forever. But what distinguishes a group of passionate dolphin fans or a group of implicitly biased white people that swear they got black friends and voted for Obama from a KKK member that would drive his truck through a crowd of protesters, or a Hutu soldier committed to killing every Tutsi in Rwanda, or a German Nazi who spent his entire life theming Christians, is activation in this region of the brain in response to thems. Like most brain regions, the insula has many day jobs, but it's especially active when we feel the emotion disgust. It lights up like firecrackers whenever you see vomit or smell spoiled milk or think of a roach crawling on your neck. Yours is probably lighting up right now just hearing me say these things. But it also lights up in response to social disgust. The disgust you feel watching someone violate a norm that you hold dear, like watching someone steal candy from a baby or kill an innocent black man. And it also lights up like firecrackers in the most extreme forms of social bias and exclusion. It lights up like firecrackers in the brains of extreme racists. Coupled with the amygdala, this brain region is a major driver of the worst and most blatant racist behaviors that we see in our world today. Fear, disgust, and maybe a little envy truly bring out the worst in us. So, racism is marked by higher activity in the danger and disgust zones of our brains, and less activation in the inhibitory and empathy zones. But exactly what explains this? Like, how do brains got like that? If an estimated 2/3 of the US population exhibits some form of racial bias for white skin, can we ever hope to fix our problem with racism? Can we all just not be racist? I answer each of those questions in part 2 of this brain snack.